Welcome to Mentoring Moments. Mentoring Moments is a sub-series of the E-commerce Edge Podcast. It is composed of clips taken from Jason's one-to-one and group mentorship sessions. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Mentoring Moments. We're going to do something a little bit different today because I have been asked on numerous occasions what my podcast production and distribution process looks like. What tools do I use? What steps do I follow? Do I do it all myself? How can I do it all myself? Etc., etc. So I'm going to go through that today, and I'm going to answer some basic questions to kick us off. Then I'm going to go through the process that I follow, which I have heavily documented. Then I'm going to talk about a few of the tools I use, how they work for me, why I use them, etc., etc. So yes, the answer is yes, I do all of my own podcast production, post-production, and distribution. So that means I do everything from booking in my guests to recording the actual episodes to downloading the episodes, doing all the post-production on them, and then uploading them to all the channels that I distribute my podcast through. So yes, it's a lot of work. I average about, now that I've got a refined process, I average about 2 hours per episode in total, which includes the initial hour, roughly hour recording process when I'm interviewing a guest, and then roughly 1 hour of post-production and distribution. Might be a little bit more, but that's a pretty 2 to 2.5 hours per episode, and we're consistently dropping 3 episodes a week. Monday being our mentorship episode, Wednesday being our B2B episode, and then Friday being our tech episode. And so I'm spending anywhere from 6 to 8 hours a week on my podcast production and then repurposing across a whole bunch of digital channels. How can I do that? I couldn't do this without software. I couldn't do this without technology that helps to make it better, faster, smoother, and just overall a much better production, post-production, and distribution experience. And so I want to walk you through what that looks like for me as of right now. Now, my process as I have it documented has evolved over the last 6 months or so. It continues to evolve, but it's a pretty consistent process with only minor tweaks being made from time to time just to make sure that I'm staying relevant in the market, to make sure that I'm still getting good penetration on my social posts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I basically take all the feedback across all the different channels that I post my podcast through, and I take that feedback and I fold it back into my production process, fold it back into the type of content I'm creating to make sure that I stay relevant and focused at all times. So let's go ahead and kick things off. I'm going to show you a few different pieces of software and a few other things as I go through this. As I said, I've got this documented in a Google Doc so that I can make sure and follow my own process as well to bring consistency to my production and distribution process. So it all kicks off with the recording process. So how do I do the recording process? Currently, I use Riverside FM, which is a virtual online recording studio. It records to the browser, so that way if either party has a intermittent internet connection, it continues to record directly to the browser. And then once the recording session is complete, it will continue to upload the local file from each speaker up to the cloud with Riverside FM. And sometimes that can take 30 minutes to an hour after the live episode has been recorded for it to all be completely uploaded from all the speakers into Riverside. And then what Riverside does is it joins it together once it's in Riverside, and it does that all automatically and seamlessly. Now, I use Riverside FM. I've got a subscription to Riverside FM. It lasts until the end of this year. At the end of this current subscription, I'm going to be moving to Squadcast, which is a very similar platform, does very similar things. Uploads to the browser initially, records to the browser initially, and then it uploads once you've completed the recording. Now, why am I doing that? Why am I making the change? Is it because I hate Riverside, or it's not good, or doesn't do what's on the tin? No. Riverside works very well. It's almost like the industry standard of virtual online recording studios. It does a great job. The only thing I would say is I really wish that Riverside and Squadcast offered virtual backgrounds for the recordings. Neither of them offer that today. And if you've done anything inside Zoom or Google Meet or any other form of video conferencing system, they virtually all offer virtual backgrounds today so that you can record from almost anywhere and have a professional looking background. But that gripe aside, the reason I'm moving to Squadcast is because and you'll understand how Descript fits into my workflow soon. Descript has now acquired Squadcast, and so I get Squadcast for free when as part of my Descript subscription. So I don't need to be paying a separate fee, and it's a not unsubstantial fee for Riverside. For a subscription to Riverside, it will no longer need the Riverside subscription once I switch over to Squadcast, because Squadcast is now included for free with Descript, and Descript is tightly integrated into Squadcast for your workflows. In any case, whether it's Riverside or Squadcast, you do the original recording with your guest. And then after I complete that process, I currently download that raw MP4 video file to my local machine, my local laptop. Once I'm using Squadcast, I will no longer need to download it directly because it will sync automatically to my Descript account. Once I have that downloaded raw file from Riverside, I upload that to Descript. So I just want to show you what the Riverside platform looks like. I'll go ahead and log in, just give you a very quick show if you haven't used it before, what it looks like, etc., etc. Just going to go ahead and log into that. It's linked up to my Gmail account. So I've got multiple different studios, which is basically just recording areas that have a distinct URL that can get sent out to all of my calendar invites. I got miscellaneous calls, might need to be recorded. I've got my one-to-one mentorship calls, which have their own studio. And then I've got the podcast recording, which has got its own studio. So if I go to the studio, you'll see that when it loads up here, it'll ask me if I'm using headphones, continue without device, because I'm already using it for this. And I'm using headphones. Let me go ahead and join the studio. And this is basically what the studio looks like. So I will pop up on the left in video. My guest will pop up on the right. I can go ahead and click record. I can turn my mic on and off, my cam on and off, speaker on and off. And then I'll also kill the session, whatever from there. So my video is already being consumed by vMaker, so I won't go ahead and it won't pop up on here on my Riverside, but that's it. This is basically the virtual recording studio. And if you need to invite people, you can copy the link and send it out to anybody you like, or invite them by email directly within Riverside. Now, once I go outside the Riverside studio, I can see an entire list of all of my recordings from that studio. And once they're recorded, I do some very basic layout type stuff inside the particular recording. So, for example, if I wanted to go to the editor here, this is the first step that I do, and I would do the same thing in Squadcast. So the first thing is, what do I want the layout to be within Riverside? So I want it to be side by side. I want rounded corners. And then when I can change the background to a different color, etc., the frame basically. And then once I go to export, I can export as is, or I can normalize audio levels. And if one of the speakers for some reason is very quiet and the other one is very loud, there's some things you can do within Descript to clean this up as well. But I always find that it's better to clean it up at the source within Riverside, if you can, to get the speaking volume levels as close to each other as possible before you do the export. So I do the export. It'll do all that nice framing, and then it'll get ready to go. And then it'll basically output all of the outputs down here. You can also make quick clips from it if you wish. I use Opus Clip, but you can also now create magic short clips directly from within Riverside. And then you export that finally edited file directly to your local machine. So that's what I do today. And I'll do that same thing in Squadcast, except Squadcast will automatically sync directly to Descript. So then we move from there. So Squadcast, again, looks very similar. And now it says Squadcast by Descript because it's been purchased. Now, once I'm in Descript, and here's the Descript homepage, but it's actually an app. It's a local app that runs on your local computer system. And I'm going to go ahead and open that up for you guys, just so that you can see some of the basic things that I do within Descript and why Descript is so amazing at doing what it does. It'll retrieve all your projects as soon as you open up Descript. Then here's the last file I was working on. But basically, what I use Descript primarily for are two things. Removing the filler words, so that will automatically identify and remove all your ums, all your ahs, all your maybes, all your word duplications, etc. It will automatically remove all those. And it will generally remove a couple of percent, depending on how much you use those terms. It will remove a couple of percent of the length when it removes all those out, and it'll put in a nice little clean short word gap where that word used to be. Now, the other thing is it will shorten word gaps. So sometimes there's some silence where somebody's thinking before they speak, and you want to remove all those word gaps just to keep the cadence of the podcast consistent. So there's not long pauses in word gaps where people will lose their attention. So basically the rule I set for the word gaps is any gap longer than 0.6 seconds gets reduced to 0.5 seconds. So I want when I'm done with Descript, and the file editing process, I do not want any word gap longer than a half a second. I find that's just about perfect for keeping the cadence going properly. Now, the final thing that I will oftentimes have to do within Descript is an amazing piece of technology that they recently added to the platform. And that is, if I highlight, then you can see this studio sound effect over here. Now, sometimes when you're doing a recording, someone will be in an area where it creates a massive echo, or it creates some weird distortion or some sort of weird effect to their sound, or perhaps they're using the microphone on their computer, they're not using a headset, they're not using a USB mic, and so therefore the sound quality is just not that good. This studio sound, when you enable that, it runs effectively a filter over top of the file to make it sound literally like you and the other guest were redoing the recording live in a recording studio. So it will remove all the echo, it will remove all the odd sound artifacts, it will bring the volume levels up to much more consistent than even Riverside can. It will basically clean up the audio. And I've had some pretty bad audio from some guests where the quality just was not that good when we first recorded the file, and I only realized just how bad it was when I went back and re-listened to the file at the end, the video and the audio. And this studio sound will clean, it does a very good job. Can I say it will make really rubbish audio sound perfect? No, but it will make it where an audio file that maybe was almost unlistenable, it will make it absolutely listenable. And in cases where the sound quality was average, not bad, it will take it from average to crystal clear, perfect, no echo, no odd sound artifacts. So I'm a big fan of this new functionality within Descript called Studio Sound. So that's the three primary things I use it for. If there's some very light editing that I can do within here as well, for example, let's say I've got a section where I knew that, let's say, a dog was barking in the background or a phone rang or something like that, then if I can identify that easily in here, then all I've got to do is I've just got to use it like almost like a desktop editor or like Google Docs or a Word doc and cut that part out, and all of a sudden that gets removed from the file. Now, usually I'll do that in Camtasia. Any like final edits over and above what Descript does automatically, I'll usually do that in Camtasia when I'm doing the full final production of adding the intros, the outros, etc. But you can also do some really basic editing of taking chunks out of the file directly within Descript. Then from here, once it's all edited and it's ready to go, then I'll click, this normally says publish, but because I've published this file before, I won't publish it again. But basically, once it's finished publishing to the web, then you can click the link within Descript. Then you can download the finally rendered file. So Descript will render it as part of the publishing process. It will render it to the cloud, and then you are able to review the final file in its entirety, and you are able to download it from there, and you're able to download it to your local machine. So I'll do all my Descript editing. I will do all of the final filler words, word gaps, studio sound, etc., with the threshold of 80% in the studio sound setting. I find 100% tends to overcorrect audio, whereas 80% is just about right in terms of the studio sound threshold. Now, once I'm done with that in Descript, I'll download that Descript file to the local machine. I will then record a guest video intro for the episode using vMaker. Now, you can think of vMaker as a lot like Loom, but I actually like it better than Loom simply because Loom has eliminated a whole bunch of the features of the free version. And even as part of their lowest tier of paid plan, there's a whole lot of features that they no longer support, like direct downloading of the finished file. vMaker is a lot like Loom. It has most of the functionality Loom has. It's at a much lower price point, and it has a lot of features baked into those lower tiers of platforms. So what I'll do is I'll do a recording similar to this, where I'll go to the guest's website if they have one. If they don't have their own website, or if they don't have a company website that I can use, then I will go to their LinkedIn profile. I will record a short video intro about that particular episode, in talking about a very brief update of what we've talked about in the episode, what the listener can expect or the watcher can expect from the episode. And then I basically download that short little intro video, and I use that as part of the final production ready video. After I've done that guest video intro, I will then create a static episode cover image inside Canva. And I'm sure that you guys are very familiar with Canva, but there's a couple of components I have to put together before I can finalize the Canva cover image for that particular episode. So I'll save the guest's headshot image, usually taken from LinkedIn. I will save that to my local machine. I will upload that screenshot to that image from LinkedIn or wherever I've gotten it from. Sometimes I have to Google the person's name and hopefully find an image of theirs. I will upload that image to Canva. Then I will create a cover image for that episode based on the same type of episode that I've created a cover for recently. And I'll just show you an example of that. So if you look here, my regular Friday episode, which is a tech-based episode, has this format and layout. Then if you look at the Commerce Corner, most recent Commerce Corner episode, which is a sub-series of the podcast, it's got a slightly different layout. It's got slightly different image in it. It's got a little image of a corner there. And then I also have a third layout for the Mentoring Moments episodes, which come out on a Monday. And whether I've got a guest mentor or whether I'm having conversations with my one-to-one mentees, I use a very similar style of layout. But then if I've got a guest mentor, then I will say that I've got a guest mentor like this, guest mentor Wayne Richard. So I've got layouts for all of those different types of episodes. And so what I'll do is if I need to make a new version, a new episode is coming out of that episode type, I'll open up the previous image, I'll make a copy of it, and then I will edit it from there. So for example, and you can see in my uploads here, uploads within Canva. If you've worked with Canva before, you know how this works. I don't know why that button is not working, but in any case, you can go to your uploads and you can see the image uploads. And I got a whole bunch of screenshots of files of people's headshots so that I can create each file as we go along. So if any of you use Canva, you will know just how easy Canva is to use. And these are the files that I create as the cover image for within the actual video/audio file to show and display in the video whilst the intro audio is actually playing so that people can see at a glance what that episode is going to be about and who the guest is. So if we go back over here, create the image episode in Canva, I've broken down exactly how I do that. Now, remember, the reason that I actually originally created this document was not only to bring consistency to my own process to make sure that I didn't miss anything along the way, because there's quite a lot of steps to get this thing right here and to make it consistent, but I eventually want to start outsourcing portions of the post-production process to an outsourced resource. And if I don't know exactly what that process is, and I can't articulate it accurately, even if I show them one or two times what that process looks like, they're going to have to take their own notes and they might miss something. And so this is something when you start to outsource, you need to have your process documented in a very detailed manner with links to the software, et cetera, so that anybody you start outsourcing pieces of the process to can make sure and follow the same process you follow for consistency and for efficiency. So once I've created that Canva cover, I then create any required third-party ads for the episode, and I create those in vMaker usually as well. And then I will pull those into Camtasia as an ad. I'll add the background music. I'll do the final editing in Camtasia and then save that as a separate video file for inclusion in any future episodes where that ad is due to run. I'll save that to my local machine so I can reuse it multiple times. Now, not every episode will have an advertiser, and so therefore that is only where it's required. Now, once I'm done with the creation of all those additional assets per episode, then I will load all of the required episode assets into Camtasia for final editing. Now, Camtasia is a local file-based video/audio editor. And there's a lot of editing tools out there. Everybody has their favorites. Everybody has ones included with Windows and Mac. Everybody has their favorite. There's there's SaaS-based video editors, like online browser-based editors. I like Camtasia because I own this application. It's a Windows application. It's a desktop application. And I've used lots of video editors over the years, but I've been a big fan of Camtasia over this time. It's not cheap. You only pay for it once, and then you own it. And so for me, it's worked really well. It is the easiest to use video editor I have ever used. The timeline management, just everything, asset management is just super, super easy. Even for relative newbie beginners, it just works supremely well. So I use Camtasia. I won't open that up and show you how it works in detail because it works very similar to other video editors that you've probably seen like Veed and others. So I won't go into detail there, but it's just another alternative if you don't know which type of application you want to use to do the final editing and production of your videos / audio, then I suggest you have a look at Camtasia. I'm based in Mexico currently. It's detected that, so it's given me an individual license price, which is an annual subscription. I bought the perpetual license, and that works to be about 500 New Zealand dollars, about $540 New Zealand dollars. And so again, that's, you own it, you own that desktop application until you need to go to the next major version upgrade. So they give you intermediate version upgrades for free, and then when they come out with a whole brand new point version, new generation of the software, then you have to pay an upgrade price. It's not as much as the full price, but it's an upgrade price. So anyways, I don't want to linger on this too much, but Camtasia, definitely have a look at it, maybe do their free trial and see what you think, because it's a really good platform as far as I'm concerned for video editing, and it can output audio and a whole bunch of other things. So when I've done that, what I do is I'll take within Camtasia, I'll take the guest video intro for B2B and tech episodes only. The mentoring episodes don't have an video intro. I'll take the default podcast audio intro for that particular episode type. I'll pull that into Camtasia. I'll pull it in the Canva static episode image. I'll pull that in. I'll bring the cleansed episode video from Descript directly into Camtasia. I'll bring in the standard podcast video outro for the episode type and any video ads I might have. I will put those onto the timeline. I will do any final cleanup edits in the main Descript video I wasn't able to or didn't clean up inside Descript for whatever reason. Then we will put all that together inside there. Then once all the edits and production are done in Camtasia, I will select an MP4 output, so video file output. I will download that as an MP4 video. I will then take that final edited video. I will then take that and I will upload that to Opus Clip to get subtitled teaser clips for short form mobile video distribution. And I just want to talk very briefly about Opus. So Opus is a really good platform for creating all those beautiful short form clips for YouTube Shorts, for TikTok, for Instagram stories, etc., etc. And so even in the main feed in Instagram. So they're mobile optimized clips. And what is really nice about Opus is once you upload that full video, which you do here, then you can select the target length for the short form clips that you want to output. I think it's 30 to 60 seconds, or maybe it's 0 to 30 seconds, 30 to 60 seconds, 1 minute to 2 minutes. And I think there's a 2 minute to 4 minute output. And I'll always select 30 to 60 seconds because I'll use most of these shorts for YouTube. So I'll upload most of these short files to YouTube. And what Opus will do is it will take your entire video, and using AI, it will pull out short little thematic clips that are representative of that particular theme within the long form video file. You get clips in one click. It takes about 15 minutes. It emails you when the clips are all ready to go. You go back to the main screen, and I'll just pull up one here as an example. And then what you end up with is a whole bunch between 10 and say 20 short clips that are, talking about one specific segment or one specific topic from the long form video, if the raw video or the source video is long enough to do so. So they also have a virality score. They talk about why it gets the rating that it gets. They also propose a potential title for that video, and they put in the subtitles directly burned into the video. They burn it in, and so you just click download. You can also now upload directly to YouTube from Opus, and so there's a few different ways to do that. But I always want to do some custom information. I want to put up some custom title, custom description, all that sort of stuff. So I still do upload directly through YouTube Studio, which you'll see shortly. But for actual creation of the automated creation of these short video clips optimized for mobile, I always do this in Opus Clip, and I think it's fantastic value for money for what it does. So that's all about Opus. So once I'm done with that, as you see here, 40 to 60 second clips, I'll grab all the 40 to 60 second clips out of Opus that I think are appropriate for this particular video as a representation, almost like teaser clips. I'll download those to my local machine, and those will get used in the distribution process. So I'll show you that shortly. I will then go and I will create a meme-based cover image for episodes using Image Flip, which is a meme generating website. Now, why do I use Image Flip? Well, there's a whole ton of meme generation websites out there. I've just found Image Flip so far to be the easiest to use, to have the most base memes that you can create from, and it's just kind of easiest to use all the way around. Now, you may have your own meme generator, but the reason why I started creating meme cover images for my videos that got uploaded to YouTube and to all these other, Rumble, the reason that I started creating these memes is because they get good traction because they're funny, right? So as a meme clip, as your thumbnail in YouTube, the meme is more funny and therefore more engaging as a thumbnail in YouTube and Rumble than for example, the cover image that I made in Canva. And so that's why I did that. Also, when you post about your new episodes to social media, such as LinkedIn, Reddit, etc., when you put the meme image in there, it tends to be a little bit more funny, tends to be a little bit more engaging than just this static Canva cover, which is really directly about, there's nothing funny about it. It's really just telling you what that particular episode is about. So I will then go through the process of creating the meme. I will then grab it with the Snagit screen capture program. Just use your favorite screen capture program. I will then, depending on whether I need a carousel for this particular video episode, I will then go to AI tools and I will create a carousel from the the YouTube video. Once it's been uploaded and processed by YouTube, YouTube automatically generates captions behind the scenes that then AI carousels can pick up on, and it can create an automatic carousel based on your episode. So this is in the back end of AI carousels. I've picked one clip here. And I'm just going to put that in, and you'll see how fast. Now, this is an almost hour-long video in YouTube, and you'll see just how quick. So if I generate from content, I pick the YouTube video URL, I go ahead and I put it in, it will then go ahead and generate the carousel behind the scenes. And it does this usually in a matter of minutes. I won't wait for it to complete before I move on, but we can come back here and you can see just how powerful this AI carousel generator is. Whereas if I had to generate the carousel from scratch based on the episode's content, it would take me a long time. So there we go. It's about, was that 1 minute or less? So it talks about, it was, who it is, etc. Sometimes I'll have to correct the name because YouTube didn't pick up some words exactly. We'll have to do some basic editing in here. I'll obviously put my personal information in there, and then it will just talk about in the slides. It will talk about what the episode was about and the key takeaways from that episode. And then I'll put in a closing slide with all of the information about the podcast, and boom, download carousel, downloads it to PDF, and it's ready to go and be uploaded to platforms like LinkedIn. Boom, done. And again, the reason why I started creating carousels around my content, as well as memes, as well as short clip videos, etc., is to try to bring some variety to the types of posts that I'm putting up to the likes of LinkedIn, to keep it fresh, to keep it new, and to keep it engaging. And so I'll usually pick whatever I think is the best, whether I think the meme is the best at that time, whether I think the video is the best at that time, whether I think the carousel is best at that time. I will choose that to advertise that particular episode when I put up a post about it on LinkedIn. Now, what do I do from a distribution perspective? How do I get these episodes out into the wild? It used to be hosted by Podbean, and that was fine. Podbean is a fine host. Problem is that they will not host video episodes, and video episodes are important for Spotify primarily. And Spotify's gaining ground on Apple in terms of podcasts being hosted by them and being distributed by them, and also the demand from users is growing for Spotify. It's also growing for Apple Podcasts, but it's growing a bit faster for Spotify according to most data out there. And I got approved for video podcast episodes through Spotify, but only if I hosted my podcast episode with Spotify. So what I did is I canceled my Podbean subscription. I moved the RSS feed over to Spotify. Spotify picked up on all the episode data. And then all of a sudden now, for all the new episodes that I upload to Spotify, I upload the video file, the MP4 video file. It will make both the audio and the video available directly through Spotify, and it will distribute through the RSS feed system. It will distribute the audio-only version of the file, so basically the MP3 version of the file, to audio-only platforms like Apple, like Google Podcasts, and the 100 other podcast engines out there in the market. So the RSS feed file and the URL comes from Spotify, and that's what gets shared to the audio-only podcast engines out there. Now, this also, at the same time, removed a step for me. So I used to have to output out of Camtasia an audio version of the podcast and a video version of the podcast. Now I no longer need to do that because Podbean only accepted an MP3 version of the podcast, and then it distributed to the audio platforms. And then I would upload the video version to YouTube and Rumble. Now it's one file, it's one video file that gets uploaded to Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. So that took out one step in the chain for me and made me a little bit more efficient. So create an account with Spotify for podcasters. I will then, within Spotify for podcasters, which you can see here is my episode list in Spotify for podcasters. And you will see here that when you create a new episode, I'll select the file. I won't do an actual upload, but anyways, I'll just select one here. So it will then, after it's done uploading or as part of the upload process, you have to get a title and a description. And what I will do is I will go back to a previous episode of the same type, whether it's mentorship, B2B, or tech. I will then copy and paste the title and the description from that previous episode in there so that I follow the same format. I will update the title with the episode number and the description, etc., to make it appropriate. I will then update the episode description to make it appropriate for the new file, etc. So just go ahead and kill this. That's how I make sure and bring consistency to the way that I title my podcast episodes and the description format that I use for my episodes. It's how I bring consistency to it. I will then upload the video episode to YouTube and Rumble. And the first thing that I will do is I will take will abbreviate the title of the podcast because YouTube and Rumble have a 100-character limit to their titles. And usually my titles are longer than that. So I'll make an abbreviated version of the title in the title of the YouTube video. I will then put the full title of the video in the description. I will then use all of the other information as part of the default template that I use in YouTube. I will then update that, make it all correct. And then I will copy that new abbreviated title and description from YouTube into Rumble, and I will then upload the full video file to YouTube and Rumble at the same time, making them live on those two platforms. Finally, I've got secondary distribution of the podcast. So I have a company page for the podcast on LinkedIn. I will then upload it to that page. I will also upload the full URLs from Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. I will then upload those three full URLs as part of the post to the E-commerce Edge company page on LinkedIn. I will then grab the short links that get created by LinkedIn for those URLs. I will grab those short links and then I will use them in my main feed post about the podcast. So I will make a post in my main feed about that podcast episode using a short clip, using a meme, using a carousel, using sometimes just text alone. I will tag the guest in the post. I will then go back after about 60 minutes of that post being live so that it doesn't harm the reach. And in the comments, I will put the LinkedIn generated links for that episode, and I will put those in the comments so that people can find that episode very easily directly from the LinkedIn post. I will then use the Camtasia teaser clip and episode links from the LinkedIn podcast page. I will then post that to Reddit and X. So within Reddit, I'll post initially to the E-commerce Edge subreddit page. I will then, once that's complete, I will cross-post it to my main profile on Reddit. I've also got an e-commerce community subreddit and a B2B e-commerce subreddit. I will cross-post the initial post from the podcast page to all of the other subreddits that I control and my own personal profile. I will then also do the post to X/Twitter. I'll grab the full episode text from the LinkedIn post, and basically the primary post that I post to LinkedIn becomes the text that will then put into the Reddit and the Twitter post. In Twitter, it always ends up being a Twitter thread because of the character limits. So what I'll do is I'll grab the full episode text from LinkedIn. I will then create a threaded post based on the LinkedIn post in X. I'll add the teaser clip, a meme. It doesn't support carousel, so I'll just either put up the teaser clip or the meme. And then I will make that as part of the first tweet, or I don't know what X calls the tweets now, but anyway, whatever it is, I'll make the first post in the thread. I will make that with the little meme image. I will then, in the final tweet or the final post as part of that thread, I will put in the links to the actual podcast episode right there for people to make it easier to find. The next step is I'll take those Opus teaser clips, those 5 to 15 teaser clips. I will start to progressively upload all of those teaser clips to YouTube with a predefined format for that particular episode type that links back to the full video on YouTube. I will put that in the shorts description. I will then also, in shorts, when you upload a short and when you modify it and when you go through the stepped process of uploading it, it will also allow you to link to another YouTube video from directly within that upload screen, and I will always upload to the full version of that episode on YouTube directly within that video-to-video linkage process. I will then create a catchy caption or title for each and every short video that gets uploaded to YouTube, and I'll also upload an emoji at the start of the title of that video to make it a little bit more catchy. I personally use EmojiDB. I think it is the best. Again, just like meme sites, there is a lot of emoji sites out there where you can grab emojis from. I just find this the most comprehensive and most searchable. Put in the word, I'll just put in the word fight, for example, if it's, battle between two technologies. And, you can find all of the fight related emojis right there. Super easy to copy. You just click directly on the emoji, and then you're able to put those directly in the titles of your videos. So I always like to do that. I like to make sure that I make the shorts that are uploaded to YouTube as catchy as possible, really salient points, really headline grabbing points. And I'm finding that I'm getting anywhere from 5 to 20 times the engagement on my shorts as I do on the long form video. So maybe I get, maybe in the first week or in the first few days, I might get 10 views of the long form video. 50, 100, 150 views of the shorts around that video that link back to the full video. I also upload sometimes 2 shorts to TikTok about that episode, and I used to also upload shorts to Instagram. I've stopped doing that. I'm really focusing Instagram more on personal stuff now because there was no business coming from Instagram anyway, and I've got a small following, so it's not really worth the time to go ahead and post that there. And even TikTok, I really haven't seen a huge amount of success on TikTok. I'm not a sexy dancer or anything like that, so I don't think I'm necessarily going to find a huge amount of success on TikTok. But I'm always every few months or so, I'll give it a trial on TikTok just to see if I can get some cut through there. So that's basically my production, post-production, and distribution process for the E-commerce Edge podcast. And I hope you have found this useful. I hope that it is something that will help to make your podcast if you start one. Well, first of all, I hope that it encourages you to start your own podcast if you have something that you're passionate about and you want to talk about online. It's a fantastic, opportunity for you to show your expertise and your passion to the world. But also, I hope if you're already doing a podcast, hopefully this will perhaps make your podcast production process. First of all, hopefully you can bring that more in-house versus having to outsource every part of it. And secondarily, hopefully it will make your podcast production easier and more efficient and hopefully a lot more fun. If you'd like to get mentored by Jason for free, head over to greenwoodconsulting.net, scroll to the bottom of the page, and click Get Mentored by Jason.